And you misunderstood. I wasn't running away because of what you told me. I was running to prove myself because of what you told me.
Remember when network executives thought star power could overcome any terrible premise? 1986 was the peak of throw famous people at random concepts and pray something sticks era. Today we're counting down 10 TV disasters that had everything going for them. Big names, bigger budgets, and the kind of confidence that only comes from snorting pure optimism. Pure optimism. Before we dive into this parade of spectacular failures, tap that like button and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And stick around for number 1, a show so cursed by timing that it makes Murphy's Law look like a self-help guide. Now, let's get into it with number 10, Easy Street, NBC.
Ricardo and Bully were about to end it all, until Bully's long-lost niece appeared.
Good gosh, golly darn.
To take them home.
Alright, let's start with number 10, and this one comes straight from one of our viewers. Big thanks to Jenny for emailing us about Easy Street, because honestly, we totally forgot this show existed, and wow, what a beautifully ridiculous train wreck this was. So picture this. Loni Anderson, best known as Jennifer from WKRP and briefly Mrs. Burt Reynolds, played L.K. McGuire, a former Vegas showgirl who hit the jackpot by marrying a rich playboy. Of course, he kicked the bucket almost immediately, but hey, she inherited half of his Beverly Hills mansion, so it was kind of a win. The catch was the other half of the mansion was still occupied by his sister Eleanor and her wet noodle husband Quentin, who were less than thrilled about their new roommate.
Quentin's lived here since our marriage 4 years ago. And, LK, how long have you been with us, dear?
LK didn't plan to rattle around that giant house with no support, so she called up the only family she had. Her scrappy Uncle Bully and his buddy Ricardo.
It's depressing. Don't you think?
Well, it ain't exactly Easy Street, but...
Ricardo, are you happy here?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It's always sort of a dream of mine to live with a large group of elderly white people.
Those two had been stuck in a rundown retirement home, but suddenly they were living poolside in Beverly Hills. The culture clashes wrote themselves. This was peak 80s sitcom formula, fancy people versus regular folks, champagne versus chili dogs, and enough passive-aggressive zingers to level a subdivision. And to be fair, the cast was pretty stellar. Loni Anderson held it down in the lead, Jack Elam and Lee Weaver were hilarious as the old-timers, and Dana Ivey and James Cromwell brought all the right snobbery as the uptight in-laws. These people knew how to land a punchline.
Please tell us.
Well,
Eleanor.
what you do, Eleanor, you hop a spoon, then you rub your thumb on it. It's the grease in your thumb that makes it stick.
I don't believe my wife has grease on her thumb.
Oh, and just to keep things interesting, Robby Wrist, better known as Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch, popped up in a guest spot. Because apparently even in the mid-80s, no sitcom was safe from Cousin Oliver syndrome. The show had its moments, and when the writing clicked, it really clicked. But NBC kept bouncing it around the schedule like a pinball, and by the time they settled on a night and time, the audience had already moved on. Easy Street ran for one season of 22 episodes and then quietly disappeared into that special graveyard where all the you could have been something shows go to die. Was it groundbreaking TV? Absolutely not. But it gave us Loni Anderson holding court in a house full of snobs, outwitting them with one-liners and big hair, and honestly, that was the kind of sitcom comfort food that we needed sometimes. Number 9, Better Days, CBS.
Hi, I'm Brian McGuire, and this is how I always dreamed my life would be. But it never was.
Okay, so imagine this. Your parents split up and ship you across the country to live with your grumpy grandpa in Brooklyn. That's Better Days, in a nutshell. And yeah, it's exactly as awkward as it sounds. This one starred Raphael Sbarge, and if you're thinking, wait, I know that guy. Yeah, you're right. He's the dude from Once Upon a Time and The Guardian. Back then, he was playing Brian McGuire, a blonde Beverly Hills kid trying to adjust to life with his no-nonsense grandfather Harry, played by veteran character actor Dick O'Neill. The setup was classic sitcom culture clash. Laid-back California teen meets East Coast grit. CBS gave Brian 2 street-smart teammates at Braxton High, Luther, played by Chip McAllister, and Snake, played by Guy Killam. They didn't exactly welcome him with open arms, but they tolerated him just enough to help him fit in.
And fucking back! And when we rock the house, you better get back, Jack, so bust back!
And apparently that counted as character development. Also on staff was Randy Heller, Daniel-san's mom from The Karate Kid, as Miss Winters, the tired English teacher who clearly deserved a better script. But the real problem was that Better Days couldn't pick a tone. One minute it was trying to explore real issues like broken families and displacement, and the next it was throwing in goofy jokes about city life. Pick a lane, you know? Every episode felt like a very special episode in disguise, pushing life lessons about resilience and adaptation, but with all the subtlety of a chalkboard to the face.
You're the best thing that ever came out of this school. I'm not as good as you make me out to be.
Critics weren't kind either. People magazine's Jeff Jarvis famously called it a shockingly racist sitcom that looked as if it had been produced by South African TV. Yikes. If you're getting compared to apartheid-era broadcasting, you've officially missed the mark, and CBS didn't help. They stuck it in the Wednesday night death slot, opposite Head of the Class and Highway to Heaven. It never stood a chance. Better Days became the first cancellation of the 86-87 season. Only 4 episodes aired before it was pulled. 7 more were left unaired. Look, Raphael Sbarge was a good actor, but even talent can't save a show that feels like someone's sociology homework come to life. Number 8, You Again? NBC.
I'm Henry Willows. I had a family.
Jack Klugman and John Stamos. One was TV royalty, best known for Quincy, M.E., and The Odd Couple. The other was fresh off playing a bad boy on General Hospital and trying to make the jump to primetime. Together, they played an estranged father and son, forced to live together. Hilarity theoretically ensued. Klugman played Henry Willows, a conservative supermarket manager whose wife left him for another guy 10 years ago. Their son, Matt, went with his mom and basically ghosted his dad completely. Then, out of nowhere, 17-year-old Matt showed up at Henry's door like, "Surprise, we're roommates now." Matt was irresponsible, impulsive, and charming enough to get away with a lot, at least until sparks started flying between him and his uptight dad. Think The Odd Couple, father and son edition, but with less charm and more yelling about cereal storage. Klugman brought his trademark grumpy but lovable energy, while Stamos was transitioning from soap opera heartthrob to sitcom star.
Willows, what happened?
Well, they're computerizing the entire office. I got the memo today. Global is moving into the 80s.
And you lost your job?
No, my typewriter.
The whole generational clash thing seemed like it should work, but the execution felt like a very expensive therapy session with commercial breaks. The supporting cast included Elizabeth Bennet as Enid, Henry's loyal housekeeper, doing their best to liven up scripts that often felt determined to play it safe. Oh, and the Beach Boys showed up for one episode because apparently that's what you did in 1986 to boost ratings.
Wow, the Beach Boys. How you doing? Hi, Mike Love. Hey, man. I'm Bruce. Al Jardine, how are you? Hey, man, how are you? Brian Wilson, how are you? Good. Hey, man. Hey.
You Again was based on the British sitcom Home to Roost, which was a hit in the UK, but it didn't translate as well across the pond. Many viewers had a hard time buying 64-year-old Klugman as the father of 23-year-old Stamos. Still, the show managed to finish its first season at number 19 in the Nielsen ratings, ahead of longer-running shows like 227 and The Facts of Life, so they got a second season. But despite that early success, it never really found its footing. The show bounced between 4 time slots in under a year, and by season 2, the momentum had evaporated. NBC pulled the plug after just 26 episodes total, technically 2 seasons, but really just a long first season in disguise. The show wasn't a total train wreck, but it faded fast and left barely a ripple.
Oh, Dad, Mike Kowalski broke his wrist.
Oh, and I didn't even send him a get well card. Who is Mike Kowalski?
At the very least, it gave Stamos some sitcom experience before he landed his next big role, and honestly, that might have been the best thing the show ever did. Number 7, Fast Times, CBS. Fast Times, the sitcom version of the 1982 cult classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High, with no Sean Penn, no edge, and no point. Just laugh track laced versions of iconic movie characters, stripped of everything that made them cool, edgy, or even remotely interesting. CBS looked at a raunchy teen comedy about sex, drugs, and the awkward pain of growing up and thought, you know what this needs? A family-friendly time slot and some network censors. The result was like watching Scarface edited for the Disney Channel. Here's the wild part, the creative team wasn't the problem. Amy Heckerling, who directed the original movie, returned as producer and director. Cameron Crowe was even on board as creative consultant, but all that talent got buried under a mountain of network notes and standards and practices memos.
Do you know why everyone loves puppies?
No, why?
Because a puppy is always so glad to see you. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read that.
You know, you can't tell.
Some familiar faces did return from the movie. Ray Walston reprised his role as the cranky Mr. Hand, and Vincent Schiavelli came back as Mr. Vargas. The rest of the cast included future Melrose Place star Courtney Thorne Smith as Stacey Hamilton, pre-McDreamy Patrick Dempsey as Mike Damone, Claudia Wells as Linda Barrett, and Dean Cameron as a PG-rated Jeff Spicoli, with all the edge of a breakfast cereal mascot.
So, why, Mr. Spicoli, do you have this problem getting to my class?
Even Moon Zappa pulled double duty, helping the writers sound like actual teenagers and playing a student named Barbara. Unfortunately, neither effort could save the show from flunking out. The whole thing felt like a never-ending very special episode, minus the emotional payoff. The sharp satire of the original film got sanded down into preachy life lessons. Critics noticed. One reviewer called it video swill. Another suggested CBS could have filled the hour with emergency broadcast system tests, and viewers would have been better off.
This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcasting system. This is only a test.
I'll spare you the screeching tone that followed. Anyway, CBS even paired it with another dud, Tough Cookies, turning Wednesday nights into a test of viewer endurance. Oingo Boingo provided the theme song, probably the only thing about the show with any actual bite.
Listen to your teacher, listen to your mother.
Fast Times lasted just 7 episodes. And let's be real, Mr. Hand wouldn't have given it a passing grade, though he might have appreciated the irony. Number 6, Tough Cookies, CBS. Remember that other bomb CBS paired with Fast Times? Well, meet Tough Cookies, starring Robby Benson as Cliff Brady, a streetwise Chicago cop trying to clean up his old South Side neighborhood. Except Robby Benson was still best known as the baby-faced heartthrob from Ice Castles and Ode to Billy Joe. So watching him play a gritty detective was kind of like watching Doogie Howser audition for The Wire. Cliff lived near the precinct and hung out at a bar called The Windbreaker, owned by Rita, played by Lani Kazan. She was the outspoken bar owner and acted as Cliff's surrogate mother. His inner circle included Richie, played by Matt Craven, his childhood buddy and bartender, and another buddy, Danny, played by Adam Arkin, a smooth-talking bookie. Rounding out the cast was Father McCaskey, played by Alan North, the understanding police chaplain who basically doubled as the neighborhood therapist, Art Matrano as Cliff's tough but watchful supervisor Lieutenant Iverson, and Officer Connie Rivera, played by Elizabeth Pena. The show should have worked based on the strength of the cast alone, but spoiler alert, it didn't.
I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood, although personally I have moved to a sumptuous 2-bedroom condo on Lakeshore Drive.
You're the bookie?
I prefer wagering consultant, because frankly it goes down a little better at family gatherings.
The problem was Tough Cookies couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Gritty cop drama, quirky workplace comedy. It kept trying to blend heart and humor, but landed in that awkward middle ground where nothing really clicks. The result was 6 forgettable episodes and a permanent spot on CBS's What Were We Thinking shelf. Critics were lukewarm, audiences were colder, and Benson's tough guy makeover just didn't stick. Fast Times may have flunked out, but Tough Cookies didn't even make it past the first roll call. Quick pause here. Are you getting flashbacks to your childhood yet? Drop a comment and let us know which of these forgotten flops you actually remember. And hey, if you're enjoying this video, tap that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the shows that networks wish they could erase from history. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming disasters with number 5, All Is Forgiven, NBC. All Is Forgiven starred Bess Armstrong right before Nothing in Common with Tom Hanks and Carol Kane post-Taxi pre-Kimmy Schmidt, absolutely killing it as a delightfully spaced-out office co-worker named Nicolette. It had all the right ingredients for comedy heaven. In execution, though, it landed somewhere closer to comedy purgatory. Armstrong played Paula Russell, a soap producer who got married and started a new job on the same day. As NBC's own ad put it, she's a love nest at home and a cuckoo's nest at work. The new hubby, Matt, played by Terrence Knox, was a young donut executive, which sounds like a job Homer Simpson made up, and came with a loud and somewhat jealous teenage daughter named Sonia, played by Shawnee Smith. Meanwhile, Paula's workplace was a soap opera, both literally and figuratively.
Well, now you'll be able to afford one that does. I'm promoting you. You're the new producer of All Is Forgiven.
Yes, the soap shared its title with the show, and her co-workers were walking daytime drama cliches. There was Wendell, the insecure director, Cecile, the pushy diva star, David Alan Grier, years before In Living Color, played Oliver, the talented but unsure newbie writer, Sherry, the overworked production assistant, and Lorraine, played by Valerie Landsberg from Fame, the receptionist who seemed more invested in her social life than her actual job.
I'll think about that. While you think about who's indispensable around here.
The premise had real potential, a behind-the-scenes look at a daytime soap ripe for satire and meta humor. And at first it looked like NBC had a hit. The premiere pulled in over 19 million viewers and ranked number 7 for the week. Critics liked the cast and the ambition. Ratings started strong too, but then NBC started playing scheduling roulette, bouncing the show between its prime Thursday must-see TV slot and Saturday night. You could literally see the drop. High on Thursday, tanked on Saturday, bounced back a bit when it returned to Thursday. Promotion was inconsistent, and then, just for fun, they re-aired the pilot 2 months later as a special presentation, which felt like the network equivalent of rereading a breakup text. In the end, All Is Forgiven lasted just 9 episodes, and no, NBC, all was not forgiven. Number 4, Together We Stand, CBS. Together We Stand had Elliott Gould from the MASH movie and future Friends dad, and Dee Wallace, fresh off E.T. and Cujo, trying to hold together a multicultural blended family sitcom.
David, please don't let him take Amy away from us. I love her so much.
Nobody's taking Amy anywhere. We won't even give her a cup of coffee if she asks.
The show wanted to tackle important social issues while still delivering lighthearted family entertainment. Gould played David Randall, and Wallace played his wife Lori. Together, they raised a mix of biological and adopted children from different ethnic backgrounds. Basically, the Brady Bunch with diversity baked in, which makes sense since it was actually based on a Brady Bunch backdoor pilot called Kelly's Kids. Unfortunately, it landed closer to the confusingly bland bunch as it tackled everything from sibling rivalry to cultural adjustment while often coming off like a diversity seminar with a laugh track. The family included biological son Jack, played by Scott Grimes, long before ER and The Orville, adopted daughter Amy, adopted daughter Sally, and adopted son Sam, played by Ke Huy Quan. Yeah, Short Round from Temple of Doom and recent Oscar winner for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Every character had a backstory, and every conflict wrapped up with an earnest conversation about understanding and acceptance, usually before the credits rolled. The show debuted in a strong Monday night slot after Kate and Allie, but when CBS moved it to Wednesdays against Perfect Strangers and Highway to Heaven, the ratings tanked. 6 episodes in, CBS pulled it and ordered a full retool. Gould exited during the shakeup, and his character was quietly written out in an off-screen car accident. The show returned in February of 1987 with a new title, Nothing Is Easy. Lori was a widowed single mom juggling work, night school, and an increasingly skeptical adoption agency.
I can't talk to Amy. I tried talking to Dad's picture and pretending what his answers would be, but he was having trouble expressing himself.
She also gained a new neighbor, Marion, a cynical divorced single parent who mostly existed to say what the audience was thinking. The reboot didn't help. Together We Stand produced 19 episodes, but only 13 ever aired. Turns out, even pros like Gould and Wallace couldn't save a show more focused on teaching lessons than getting laughs. Number 3, The Last Precinct, NBC. Imagine Police Academy, but as a network TV show starring Adam West and packed with sight gags that would make the Three Stooges file a restraining order. The Last Precinct was NBC's attempt to fuse slapstick comedy with buddy cop action, basically Starsky and Hutch meets Looney Tunes with a badge. The result was technically ambitious, but obviously doomed. The title referred to the 56th Precinct, a fictional LAPD outpost located right on the border with the county sheriff's department. And, unofficially, it was known as the dumping ground for every oddball, misfit, and walking HR violation in the department. Adam West played Captain Rick Wright, a straight arrow officer so oblivious he might as well have been cosplaying as police leadership. Under his quote-unquote command were characters like Night Train, a plainclothes officer who dressed like a pimp, Mel Brubaker, a sexy mini-skirted transgender officer, Raid, a bumbling overweight motorcycle cop, Rena, the thirsty records clerk who had a thing for Raid, King, an Elvis impersonator, Alphabet, a cartoonishly polite Indian exchange officer, and two aging beat cops literally named Butch and Sundance. Their only normal colleague was a guy named Price Pascal, aka the precinct's token competent cop, and even he barely kept it together. The precinct was in constant turf battles with the nearby sheriff's office run by Lieutenant Hobbs and his no-nonsense second-in-command Sergeant Haggerty, who looked like she ironed her uniform with pure resentment. It all came from producer Stephen J. Cannell, the guy behind the A-Team and the Rockford Files, but this felt like he'd swept up every bizarre leftover idea from past shows and called it a day. NBC launched it after the Super Bowl, thinking a massive audience might stick around. Instead, it nosedived into comedy purgatory faster than West could fire a grappling hook. Viewers saw cops in drag and a cast of characters that felt like rejected auditions for a Village People Police spin-off and promptly bailed. There were jokes that belonged in a cartoon, dramatic moments that belonged in a different show entirely, and Adam West delivering lines like he was still on Batman.
Detective Lane was working undercover. His little idea of a show.
Just with 10% less irony and 40% more confusion about what show he was actually on. It lasted 8 episodes, which was probably 7 too many. Most viewers were still trying to figure out whether they had dreamt the whole thing during a post-Super Bowl food coma. The Last Precinct became a cautionary tale about what happens when a network throws everything at the wall and prays that nonsense equals ratings. Number 2, Fortune Dane, ABC. Carl Weathers, aka Apollo Creed, aka the coolest man alive in 1986, starred as Fortune Dane, a tough-as-nails ex-cop turned special agent for the mayor of Bay City. After discovering that his banker father, played by Oscar-nominated actor Adolph Caesar, had mob ties, Dane quit the force and headed west to track down the hitman and stuck around to become the mayor's personal troubleshooter. The show had everything: leather jackets, rain-slicked streets, moral ambiguity, and Carl Weathers brooding like it was an Olympic sport. ABC wanted it to be Miami Vice meets The Equalizer, but with more serious drama and fewer pastels. Unfortunately, Fortune Dane was so relentlessly grim it made Hill Street Blues look like an episode of Alf.
You wanted to play some hotshot fraternity. You wanted the prettiest cheerleaders. You wanted 4 yards on first down. Those were your goals.
And you misunderstood. I wasn't running away because of what you told me. I was running to prove myself because of what you told me.
Coming back, Fortune?
Maybe.
Save it, buddy. Save it.
I don't know.
Okay.
The show treated every case like a national crisis and delivered every line like it was being carved into a marble statue. The lighting was moody, the dialogue was intense, and the vibe was Shakespeare by way of street justice. Weathers gave it his all. He had the presence, the voice, and the slow-motion strut, but even he couldn't save scripts that treated subtlety like it was toxic. The supporting characters had names like Speed and Perfect Tommy, and the tone was so humorless it bordered on parody.
Get serious, huh? After all this, I'm gonna do business as usual.
Sure. I mean, you got it made here.
ABC gave it a prime Friday night slot, right up against the Golden Girls and 227, and let's be honest, America was always going to pick Sassy Seniors and Jack A over another hard-boiled noir monologue in the rain. Only 6 episodes aired before ABC pulled the plug. No justice for Fortune Dane, a show that thought it was delivering high drama, but mostly delivered unintentional comedy. Number 1, Melba, CBS.
Remember way back in school when Mama laid down the rule to stick together like glue, 'cause we're sisters.
Okay, so Melba Moore was basically a legend. Tony winner, Grammy nominee, Broadway icon who could bring down the house with one note. So what does CBS do with all that talent? They give her a sitcom where she plays a divorced mom running a cultural center in New York, which sounds fine until you realize the show premiered on January 28, 1986. Does that ring any bells? If not, that's the day of the Challenger disaster. So while America was glued to a national tragedy unfolding live on every screen, CBS was over here like, hey, who's ready for a feel-good family comedy? It was like showing up to a funeral with party hats. It was technically allowed, but emotionally disastrous. CBS pulled the show immediately, not because it was terrible, but because the timing was catastrophically bad. Then they tried sneaking it back on in August, hoping the dust had settled. Spoiler alert, it didn't. And while Melba wasn't offensively bad, it was a waste of a powerhouse talent. Moore played Melba Patterson, a single mom raising her daughter and running Manhattan's visitor center.
Hey, you forgot your bumper sticker.
Jack. Now, as your supervisor, I feel it's my duty to remind you that our job is to promote tourism, not eliminate it.
Her mother, Rose, had once worked as a housekeeper for a white family, the Slaters, and helped raise their daughter, Susan, creating a sisters through circumstance dynamic between Susan and Melba.
Mom, I don't believe you. That's not how you raised us.
I did a pretty good job of raising Melba, and after your mother died, I did a pretty good job of raising you.
Yeah, Mama, but you wouldn't let us go on no wild ski trip.
Well, I'm a grandmother now. I'm allowed to be nice.
The setup had potential, but the show never went deeper than surface-level sitcom beats. It stuck to safe, predictable plots and sidelined the very material that could have made it stand out. The role itself felt too small for Moore. This is a woman whose Slade and Hair and Pearly had hit records and could sing circles around most of Hollywood. And CBS gave her a part that any mid-tier sitcom actress could have played. It was like casting Beyonce as the assistant manager of a strip mall shoe store. Sure, she'd be flawless, but why would you do it? Melba had the bones of something better. Solid cast, culturally rich setting, and a chance to explore meaningful themes. But it never took that leap. 5 episodes aired in the summer before CBS pulled the plug for good. Today, it's little more than a trivia answer, remembered by TV nerds and maybe Melba's favorite cousin. A forgettable show wrapped around an unforgettable talent, and a reminder that even legends can get lost in the shuffle when networks don't know what to do with them. So, there you have it, 10 television casualties from 1986. Did you watch any of these? Let us know in the comment section below. No judgment. Well, maybe we will a little bit. And hey, if you enjoyed this trip through TV's most forgettable train wrecks, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten disasters from television history. And until next time, this is Remember When.